Have you ever thought of how incredibly powerful a story is? I would bet that if you were read Three Little Bears when you were 3 years old, you are somewhat older than that now. Some of us are very much older. And yet, if I had to tell you the story of Three Little Bears, even though I heard it when I was 3, I could do it. Why? Because stories stay with you. And so when I am looking at the power of the story, we really have to go and look at Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ was a superb storyteller. And he used stories always for a purpose. They were to connect the story with a lesson, something that he wanted his people to learn. We have traveled now through 2.5 years of Jesus' ministry, and we are getting closer to the cross. And right now, we are going to see there is another turning point, because from now on, when Jesus is in Galilee, he's going to be using parables. In fact, from now on in Galilee, it's mostly all he will use. Before we get into the parables, I want us to take us back a little bit into history as to where Jesus has been. Now, we try to review a little bit every time we're together, but this time I want to review a particular thing, and that is the opposition that has been coming up against Jesus since about the half of the first year of ministry. Remember when Jesus was teaching in his home and the crowd was sitting in his front yard, and the Pharisees and the scribes had come from all of the villages in Galilee and Judea to find out who this Jesus was? When the paralytic was dropped through the roof in front of Jesus, he said, "Son, your sins are forgiven." And when he said that, they accused him of blasphemy. They said only God can forgive sins. Had they stopped to think a minute, they might have thought, perhaps he is God on earth. And Jesus really gave them a clear picture of, okay, I just might be God. Son, pick up your pallet and leave. And he did. So he gave them a sign for the words that he was saying. But the Bible tells us that the Pharisees were angry at Jesus at this point and accused him of a crime that was really punishable by death, and that's blasphemy. And so from that point on, the religious leaders are the enemy. It started right there. Remember, soon after that, he called Matthew. Now they're accusing him of associating with a bunch of sinners and not hanging out with the righteous people. Then they accused him of not fasting. You see, they're building their argument. And then they accused him of not honoring the Sabbath when his disciples were eating grain. Then they accused him of dishonoring and breaking the Sabbath when he healed the man at the pool of Bethsaida. You see, they are building their case. Only at that point, they have really decided that they are at war with Jesus, and they have decided that they are now going to kill him. At this point, they are his arch enemies. They've already got it in the head. We are going to find a way to get rid of this man. When he healed the man with the withered hand, now they have joined with the Herodians. They are building their enemy base against him. They are getting ready for war, and that's exactly what they are going to do. And they will continue this on with all of these accusations. They will take them right to the cross. The crowds are growing. The opposition is growing more so, more vicious. That's the background, because now when he starts talking about parables, we have to keep that background in mind, because he's going to say something about parables that is really going to sound very harsh. And I want you to understand why he was talking in parables the way he did. When we look at this, we have to really also understand, why did these religious leaders reject him? Why didn't they look at all that he was doing? We know that, why in the world would he be a carpenter? Why would God ever choose a carpenter to do this? Why wouldn't he choose a rabbi? Why wouldn't he choose one of the really smart ones that already had been to seminary and were well trained in the religious faith? Why in the world would he choose someone so humble? That was not their plan. That was not their idea. The other thing is they actually loved themselves. They loved themselves. They had placed themselves up as their own little God, and they did not love others because they were so involved in love for themselves they couldn't reach out and be sensitive and kind to other people. Jesus did not honor them as they thought he should. Did you notice that? He does not give them the accolades that they feel that they should have as the religious leaders, and that really irritated them. But the truth is, they really did not believe the scriptures, and they did not love God. In 1 John, it says that if you don't love others, you don't love God. That's the test. God created others. If you do not love those who have the image of God, you do not love God. They did not love others, and they did not truly believe in the scriptures. Let's go back to when Jesus was born, and the wise men came into Jerusalem, and they were looking for the promised one, and they said, "We've been following a star, a definite sign," and none of the religious leaders, it seems, went with those wise men. They told him Jesus was being born in Bethlehem, but they didn't even go with them to find out if indeed a Christ child was there. You see, they didn't believe the scriptures. They knew them. But there's a big step from knowing and believing.